Welcome back. So now with the examples, the introduction to quadratic trinomials, right, where the terms involved are three, we have been introduced and we did example. Now let's do more examples on how to solve quadratic equations, which means quadratic trinomials, if you want to be specific, dealing with three terms. Now, so the first example that we did for illustration or for the concept was x squared plus 5x minus 6, right? If I remember, yes, plus 6 rather. So it was x squared plus 5x plus 6. Now this looks similar. So now, with the steps that we have learned, there are three major steps involved. First is to find the products, right? First is to multiply the constant, which is c, and in c, we have it to be here, in this example, we have it to be -6. And then we have the coefficient of x squared to be 1. Now we have coefficient of x here to be +1. So x here, the coefficient of x is 1. Now coefficient of x squared is also 1, positive 1, and then we have the constant to be -6. Now what we learned in the first rule is to multiply the constants by the coefficient of x squared. Now doing so, we have what? -6. Why is it so? So positive 1 times -6. -6 is here. So we are not forgetting what? Or ignoring the negative sign in front. Then the positive sign in front of x squared, right? So we have it to be a -x. Now I told you that when you are finding, in the second step, we are to find the factors. When added or subtracted, will give us the what? The product of what? -6. So if you come down to look for the factors of 6, we have a number of them. And I told you, don't ever ignore the signs of the numbers, right? So we assume that first one will be -1 and 6, because -1 and 6 will give us -6. Positive 1 times -6 will give us -6. Now -2 times 3 will give us -6. And then we have 2 times -3. So you can see that the inverse is happening here. The inverse is also happening here. So you have to consider all of these. Don't underestimate any of them. If you assume and then you rush to doing the substitution into the place of the coefficient of x, you would find yourself wanting. So it is important, for starters, as a beginner, list all the factors, the possible factors. Now, if you have done so, now tell me that among all these factors, set of factors, which one will suit -6? So we are saying that what will be suitable will be -2 and 3. Why is it so? It's so because when we add or subtract, we have to get the coefficient of x, which is +1. So what it means is that if you should take -2 from 3, we'll be left with +1. You owe someone 2 and you have 3. Pay the 2 and you'll be left with 1. So hence this one is a suitable one. So now once we have gotten that, what do? We substitute that in place of the x here. The x, the whole of x. So coming down, x squared plus x minus 6 now becomes x squared +3, right? And -2x. So positive x3 plus -2x. If you subtract the 2, we are getting positive what? X or 1 or 1x. So once that you are able to do this, I know from here is very easy peasy. So now what if you have them, what do? We do the grouping. Now if you have done the grouping, you apply what is called the factorization by common factor. That I have already taught. So if you don't know, watch the recent episode backwards. So now that we have this, what do? What do? Sorry about that. You find the by common factors and then you do that. I know here I don't want to worry myself doing too much, right? So x plus 3, because here we are seeing that we have x plus 3, the same as x plus 3. Once they are common, they are the same. You choose one and then come and apply this x minus 2x minus 2, sorry. So this is it. I know you understand this. So the reason why I'm not taking my time to do the factorization by common factor and by grouping is because I've taught it and I can't do that also here, right? So if you want to do more examples, let's take this particular one. Example 3. Here is a factorize completely the expression 2x squared minus 3x plus 1. So the same process, you multiply this one by 2, will give us what? Positive 2. So now if it's positive 2, let's find the factors of 2 that when we add or subtract will give us negative 3. What it means is that it should be what? Negative 2 and negative 1. Because negative 2 and negative 1, if you should add them, you owe someone 1 and you have gone to borrow another extra 2, we give a negative 3. So negative 1, negative 2. So that's the common factor, the factors of 6 that we are going to use, and factors of these two rather. Yeah, these two, when we add or subtract, give a negative 3. So that's understood. I hope you are not confused. Now hold on. So now, since we have the factors, right, we can do the substitution, which I said now the expression now becomes this 2x squared minus 3x plus 1 now becomes 2x squared minus 2x and negative x. There's one imaginary one here, that is it, and then the plus 1. So it's just a substitution of, right, this what's the negative what 3, right? So here we do the grouping, right? So 2x squared minus 2x, then we come here, right? You understand that? I'm not going to talk much here. So by that, what do you do? Going back to the common factorization by common factor, we have done the grouping. So going back to the factorization by common factor, what do you do? We get 2x into x minus 1, all brackets closed, minus 1x into x minus 1. So this is common, this is common. So what it means that you realize that at the end of the show, getting closer to the end of the show, you should see that in brackets you have the same in common terms or expression. Then if they are so, you choose one for the first expression, then the second expression will be the outside what? The numbers, which I call the coefficients. So 2x minus 1. I think is well understood. The same thing, if it is well understood, then the rest of any example is going to follow this trend. So what you have to do and understand is you have to be very smart about the factors, because what it means is that looking for the factors of a product or the constant C is not enough, but you have to go next step by looking at which of the factors, when you add or subtract, that's the condition, add or subtract, we give us the coefficient of what? B. And B, we said that B is what? The second term. So this is x, and then this 2. So it's 2 that we are talking about. I know when I go by being too technical, you may seem to forget what am I talking about. When I say the coefficient of x squared, or maybe a, you may be wondering. But we have established from the onset that x squared, the coefficient of x squared is a. But here, our a is 3. Then when it comes to coefficient of b, our b here is x. Now, what is the coefficient of x now? Is 2. So that's what we are talking about. You have to know this difference. So if you are new on this channel or watching this video, make sure you watch the recent episode where we captured what the terms means. The x squared, x squared, the coefficient of x squared, and then the coefficient of x or maybe b, and then the constant c. You have to understand these terms. That's important. So I'll see in the next one where we will deal with difference of squares. We are still going to build on the blocks. So make sure you understand. If any difficulty in the comment section, let me know, and I'll help you sort things out.